Three big stories to break down today. We discuss interesting reports coming out from Brazil that we are targeting Fluminense midfielder in Andre. To move on, Gabriel Slonina is set now to move to Belgium on loan for next season. And obviously today we have more updates surrounding our efforts to sign Moises Caicedo. So my friends, tons of things to break down and discuss. I hope you guys enjoy. I want to say quickly thank you to everyone for showing so much love and support throughout the summer. Like, you guys have just been absolutely amazing. It is very motivating to keep making videos when the energy is really good. So honestly, I really appreciate that from everyone. So hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions. But before we go on, today's video is brought to you by OneFootball. Download OneFootball to stay up to date to all the latest stories that's dropping today. And one feature that I like about OneFootball is that it lets me get some brief statistical understanding of players we're being linked with. For example, right now, I'll be discussing Fluminense midfield player in Andre. And if you scroll down to find him, we can look at some of his stats to get an idea of how he's performing and what he does. Obviously 22 years old, he's quite small, around like 5'9", 5'10". Of course, a key part for the Fluminense team. We can get all the latest news and stories around him. He's getting a lot of Premier League attention. And obviously, let's break down his season performances and stats too. Of course, he ranks in the top 5 for touches, top 15 for pass accuracy, and a lot more details as well. So as I said, if you want like some brief understanding behind their game, OneFootball has all these quality of life features to make your life even easier. So my friends, download OneFootball. You'll find a link below in the description and the QR code on screen too. So let's start with things. And I guess it makes more sense now to continue discussing this latest news around Andre. Now, some very interesting reports coming out from Portuguese journalists and Brazilian journalists as well too. But let's start with the Brazilian reports first. And as it states, Fluminense are getting the help now of Jorge Mendes. Of course, he is acting as an intermediary in this deal to try and find a Premier League move for their star midfield player in Andre. Now, as we know, we have a very nice recent history with Jorge Mendes. He's helping us get a network club in Portugal. He helped us sign Enzo Fernandez. He helped struck deals for Joao Felix as well too, plus a host of other players. So it's no surprise that with the connections between him and us, that there are going to be links surrounding Andre. Currently, Fluminense want a value between 20 to 25 million pounds to sell him, and that is not too bad in my opinion. But to continue the reports, let's discuss the reports coming out from Portuguese journalists in Bruno Andrade. And as he actually says, and it was a very interesting story, when we had our failed attempts to sign Ugarte from Sporting Lisbon, if you guys remember, there were talks of us possibly presenting a player on loan as part of that deal to secure him. Now at the time, players like Fofana, Andre Santos, Caicedo, they were being linked with loan moves to Sporting Lisbon. However, we finally got the confirmation behind who this player was, and in fact, we plan to sign Andre from Fluminense, loan him out to Sporting Lisbon, and hopefully tie up a deal to sign Manuel Ugarte. So this is a very surprising story. We've heard nothing about this before. Currently, we're seeing a ton of Premier League clubs looking to buy directly from the Brazilian market. Now, it's no surprise for me. I do kind of feel like in Brazil, they're kind of catering towards like more powerful European class players to obviously satisfy market demands. But I'm hoping that now they go back to their Brazilian roots and start creating these ballers that made us fall in love in the game. That's what we've been missing out on recently. But regardless, listen, football is still a business. Clubs need to make money and sell. And obviously now that Premier League clubs now are a lot more attracted to signing talent directly from the league, of course business can happen. But regardless, you might be thinking, okay, who exactly is Andre Nini? Is he worth it? Could he be a good replacement if we can't actually sign Moises Caicedo? So obviously I'm going to give you guys a bit of a breakdown behind his game. I guess the best way to describe him is that he is in that same profile of guys like Caicedo and Ugarte, in the sense that these guys win you that midfield battle. Like, these guys are kind of like your midfield in a sense, and he really marshals that middle zone in midfield. I mean, this guy is on the left, on the right. I mean, he completely dominates the area, and he dominates the area through a combination of very fascinating skill sets. For example, this guy is a very good passer. He's a very accurate passer over short distances, medium distances and long distances. So of course he can play those accurate fast switch balls to find guys on the opposite ends of the field. Like, guys like this kind of connects your team across the pitch, and I really like that. But obviously, because he plays for Fluminense, in a sense, he plays a deeper role in a pivot, essentially. And by playing a bit deeper, he has the responsibility of progressing Fluminense up the field by helping them play out from the back with their build-up play. And obviously this means that he has to have a lot of composure on the ball. He has to be very smart in terms of deciding the right pass to make in a very quick amount of time. And of course, he needs to have those technical capacities and skill sets, of course, to do justice to having a very responsible role in midfield. So again, it's no surprise to me that Andre would be someone that is currently on the shortlist. I think he's a very exciting player, and not only can he help dominate your midfield with his passing ability, but this guy is a real tenacious guy in his off-the-ball defensive work. The guy has very good pressures in this game. You know, he's a very good counter presser as well too, which he has to be, and he has an engine for days. He isn't someone necessarily that will look to make those like third man runs inside the box or overlap or anything like that, but he literally marshals the central areas of midfield. Let him have those zones, and this guy is covering every distance there. And in a sense, a midfield player like him or your Caicedos, Igates, I feel like they're very complementary alongside an Enzo Fernandez, but ideally, you want Enzo playing the Cesc role, the Fabregas role of being able to have that license when he wants to push further up the field, to combine a lot more with attacking players in front. So I like that we aren't desperately signing like any defensive option. We're still maintaining that we're interested in players that fulfill a certain tactical role. And for me, that gives me a sense of confidence, at least, that it's not like pure desperation on our part. To wrap this story up, Fluminense are hoping that buyers in the Premier League can of course start making bids right now, and hopefully with Jorge Mendes and his influence in this league, he can help find suited parties now for their client. Regardless if he didn't possibly sign for us, listen, if we can somehow get Caicedo, I feel like Andre would be a great replacement for him at Brighton, because I'm starting to get an impression now that Andre could play like a bigger part in this market. So that's the first story out the way. Let's now move on to discussing the latest updates surrounding Moises Caicedo. After getting rejected a third time, are we set to get rejected for a fourth time? I mean, to be honest, my friends, I don't think I could handle that at this point in time. But regardless, since this news came out yesterday, we have not left negotiations. We are still very much interested in getting a deal done now to sign up Caicedo, and I kind of feel like we have no other solutions or options now. Now, of course, last night reports came out suggesting that we made some late contacts with Romeo Lavia over a potential move. Of course, Liverpool now are close to signing him for under 50 million. I'm sure Southampton would have hoped that we come in to try and like raise the fee for a potential deal. However, Lavia is not interested anymore, and I don't blame the kids. And that's because we've held constant communication with Lavia now for over 1 year. You know, Joe Shields has been really pushing the club to sign him. He's been constantly talking to him. Lavia was very interested to sign for us. However, we've left him on the sidelines. We're prioritizing other players right now. But obviously these guys can't keep waiting on the sidelines. Like, they have their careers to focus on. And since Jurgen Klopp made it very aware and known that, listen, Lavia, I have big plans for you. You're going to be a big part of the team for next season. He's ready now to move to them. And that door now has closed for us. So I'm guessing Joe Shields is going to be very frustrated because he's personally put in a lot of time to try and get this deal done. But of course, if the sporting directors and him aren't in full unison, then obviously a deal won't happen. So let's hope that we don't pay the price for this. But regardless, now that quality options are leaving the market, who else can we sign that's as good as Caicedo right now? I'm not too sure. Anyway, we are preparing to make our fifth and final bid now to sign Caicedo. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that this final bid gets us deal over the line. Now we focus on reports coming out today from Romano and from the Times too. And it does mention that right now, Caicedo is growing very frustrated with Brighton, and his representatives and team are equally frustrated too. Every party can't believe that Brighton are turning down this 80 million bid for him. I mean, they basically signed him for 4.5 million, and they only started paying this guy like real footballer wages when he signed that contract extension in March. He was earning nothing for Brighton, so they're set to make an incredible killing for him. Today we've learned that Caicedo's reps and team, they're going back to Brighton now to ask them to lower their valuation. And now this is very interesting because there's a few things on hand here. Number 1, could this potentially lead up to Caicedo putting in a transfer request because he was promised a move? De Zerbi's being very vocal about Brighton, of course, accepting the fact that he will be leaving. And De Zerbi himself today even mentioned the fact that if Caicedo goes, we need time to sign a quality replacement for him, because right now our team's not looking as strong as it was last season. Losing McAllister, Caicedo, and of course Coleman in one window, that's going to be very difficult for De Zerbi. So I kind of feel like there's a bit of pressure now on Brighton to try and get as much money as respectfully possible to sell him, because they have to go back into the market now to start signing quality for De Zerbi. I think keeping Caicedo sends out a very poor message, and I'm really hoping that the reason why Brighton are being very strict in these negotiations is that they never had any real ambitions to get the 100 million. They wanted to get above the asking price, which we set very early on, saying that we aren't paying above 80 million. Now, part of me kind of feels like if this is our grand transfer plan to sign Caicedo, why was this made publicly known now for a long time? And listen, I could talk to you guys about how I feel like a lot of leaks are coming out from the club right now. A lot more leaks than ever, in my opinion. And it's sometimes when I hear certain things, I think to myself afterwards, how am I even hearing about this? This type of information, it doesn't make any sense. So I kind of feel like this does reflect a new hierarchy at the club that isn't as airtight right now. Of course, everyone's still new. Things aren't perfect. And when things aren't perfect, a lot of information gets leaked. Now, I'm hoping that this combined pressure now from Caicedo, his team, and us, as well as Brighton's needs to have to, of course, find that replacement for him, that will hopefully push through this deal very soon, because I just can't see Brighton keeping him. And obviously we need to get ready now for Liverpool. And as I said yesterday, when it comes to replacements for Caicedo, how many of these guys would you feel confident and comfortable with using against Liverpool on the first game of the new season? We have to also maintain that quality. Tomorrow I'm going to release 5 replacements and alternatives to Caicedo. I hope you guys definitely enjoy that. But in my opinion, I'm still saying Caicedo has to be that number 1 guy. So that's the Caicedo news out of the way, my friends. Share your thoughts and opinions. And now let's end things by discussing where Gabriel Slonina now is set to move out on loan. After Slonina has now settled in the country after signing for us in January, the time is now right for him to start getting valuable minutes playing men's football and first team football. And today it was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that Slonina is now set to move to the Belgian league by signing for KAS Eupen. Now I'd have to say that KAS Eupen kind of had a bit of a ass whooping last season because they came 15th. They just about avoided the relegation places. And you might be thinking to yourself, why are we allowing someone with this much promise and potential to go for a really poor team? But I think we have to see it like this. Number 1, keepers compared to outfield players, the younger they get minutes, the better. At this club in particular, there's been many goalkeepers, guys like Taklami and a lot more, who are encouraged to get loan moves at even 17 years old. And a lot of these guys have been playing non-league football just to get those minutes. And it's not an insult. It's just a bit different for goalkeepers. And it's they don't really have any opportunities to work on their game if they don't have minutes. So there's still lots of experience to get from that, knowing what it's like to be being at a club that's fighting to stay in the league, just the pressure of working with other teammates where, every single week, their games are very important. Certain players could have bonuses tied into things like assists or clean sheets or whatever, and they're going to really rely upon their goalkeeper to be that clutch guy in goal. And of course, Slonina could do some absolute magic with them. Listen, he won't have the best save conversion rate in the league. He'll be very high for that though, but it's more about how he handles himself mentality wise, and also the opportunity to work on fine-tuning this game. I mean, for a club like this, you'd expect that tons of teams are going to absolutely pepper them because they aren't the best defensively, right? And this is the opportunity now for Slonina to fine-tune his craft and stand up in these moments. So I think this is just a good move. Of course, Courtois, he came from the Belgian league, and it's not about what he does this season to boost his hopes for next season. I feel like this is the educational season. And then for next season, he'll probably get a pre-season, but more realistically, he'll get a loan move to a bigger club and a better club. Could that even be Strasbourg in the future? Who knows? But I think Slonina will play the long game, and maybe when he's around like 21 years old, similar to Courtois, that's when we can really assess if he's ready now to take the mantle that could be potentially left behind by Kepa. And it's not the most craziest thing to envision Slonina potentially winning that spot based on this guy's character. So let's see how things play out. Good luck to him and my friends. On that note, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.